Hello, in this video we're looking at issue 13 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine, the new Assault Intercessors for our Space Marines, and looking at some new rules for the fight phase. Hello, I'm Mike and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're reading issue 13 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine today. In this issue we've got a set of 5 Assault Intercessors for the Space Marines. And if you'd like to see them in action, you can skip to the battle report using the time code or the chapter bars as usual. We'll have a quick look through the magazine first. We have background and battle record for the Assault Intercessors. So this goes over some of the heraldry. You can see the sergeant there is allowed to carry his own heraldry. He's also denoted by his red helmet with the golden skull. And these Assault Intercessors also have the Indomitus Crusade badge on their van braces. And then their record again, so you can give them all names and little backstories and track what they do. Next up we have a piece here called In Search of Immortality, but this is about the backstory of the Necrons. So originally they were an organic species called the Necron tier, who had a very large empire, but it was unfortunately they tended to fight amongst each other. But in order to unite their species, the leaders of the Necron tier declared war on an ancient race called the Old Ones. Unfortunately, the Old Ones were very technologically advanced and had access to a sort of alternate dimension almost called the Webway, which they used to outmaneuver the Necron tier. And desperate to achieve victory, the leaders of the Necron tier, or Zarak himself, made a pact with a race of godlike beings called the Catan. And the Catan gave the Necrons immortality by giving them their living metal forms they currently inhabit. But in the process, the Catan devoured the souls of many of the Necron tier, leaving all but the nobility as lifeless automata. But eventually the Necron tier and the Catan were able to defeat the Old Ones and wipe them out. In the process the Catan were heavily weakened and the Necrons turned on them to exact revenge for the Catan's betrayal. And after that the Necrons were also heavily weakened and faced with extinction, fighting against the Eldari and other servants of the Old Ones. So Zarak ordered his people into stasis and then gave up his complete control over the Necrons and fled into the void. And he mentions more about the Catan, the godlike beings. It says they're formed from the fundamental energies of the universe, so again extremely powerful, but after they were defeated by the Necrons, their bodies were shattered into shards, which the Necrons sometimes use on the battlefield. And then the Eldari are ancient enemies of the Necrons who still exist. We'll learn about them soon, no doubt. But then we have a short story here about a Necron Overlord who awakens in her tomb and finds it to have been invaded by these strange red-robed aliens, and she and her minions gather themselves together to fend them off. And you can see here that these red-robed invaders are part of the Adeptus Mechanicus, which we'll learn about more soon, no doubt. I have a build guide for the Assault Intercessors. You can see here the Sergeant is built with a plasma pistol and his sword. And there will be some spare parts because there is an alternate build for the Sergeant. But you want to build the one with the plasma pistol if you go by this guide. And then the other 4 are fairly easy to put together. So they are pushed together like the 3 we've had so far, just with different poses. And then the painting guide is fairly simple. We're just painting them up to the same standards as the other Assault Marines we've had so far. So blue armour, lead belt for all the metallic bits, including the Sergeant actually has a bionic arm. Obviously he lost his original one and had it replaced. And yes, black for weapon casings, some Corax white for the Sergeant's face, red future armour for the armour trim and the gold eagles, and then screamer pink for sword hilts and purity seal wax. But there you can see they're up to the same standard as we have the others. And there's a little bit more lore before we get into the game. We also have a fold-out set of lore here. So on one side it's called 1,000 chapters, so they are rumoured to be about 1,000 chapters of Space Marines. It shows some of the more famous ones here. We have the White Scars, the Blood Angels, the Imperial Fists, the Black Templars, the Space Wars and the Dark Angels. It gives a tiny bit of backstory on how they run. So the Black Templars are sort of eternally crusading against the Imperium's foes. The Imperial Fists are a fleet-based chapter, as are the Black Templars, so they're all sort of spread over the place. The Space Wolves are fiercely independent and reject the Codex Astartes and have their own way of fighting for and so on. And it shows some of their models here and their colour schemes as well. And then on the other side we have an overview of the galaxy showing the Imperium Sanctus and the Imperium Nihilus, and it shows the homeworlds of many Space Marine chapters, including the Ultramarines in there, the Silver Templars, also all the ones we saw on the previous page. And here it just goes over a little bit of backstory on why there are Space Marine chapters. So originally there were only 20 legions, but after an event called the Horus Heresy, they were split up into chapters based on guidance from Rabute Gilliman. And over time there have been many more chapters have been founded. There have been various foundings when the High Lords of Terror decide there need to be more Space Marine chapters. And the most recent one is the Ultima founding. But with all of that over, we can get into the game for this issue.
So now we'll be on to the game for this issue. So the background we have is that the Necrons are looking for a Resurrection Orb. Now the Resurrection Orb is a powerful artefact that can enhance the regeneration capabilities of the Necrons, making them even harder to put down. But it's somewhere in the Necron Overlord's personal armoury, and they're trying to recover it. But the Space Marines have detected its energy signature using their scanners and resolved to destroy it because they know it must be a valuable artefact that the Necrons want to keep hold of. So on the next 2 pages we have a lot of data sheets here with a couple of updates for new rules we're going to get. So let's have a look at Space Marines first. First up, the captain has the bits highlighted in red there. Firstly, on his profile, there's a heading called Number, and that tells you the number of models in the unit. So in the case of the captain, because he's a low model, his number is 1. But you can just see on the bottom of the picture, the Assault Intercessors actually have a squad size number there, which is 4 to 9 Assault Intercessors and 1 Sergeant that we made with this issue. So we'll get to those in a second, but the captain's plasma pistol, as you can see, now has 2 possible firing modes, Standard and Supercharge. Before selecting targets, you pick one of them to shoot with. The Standard mode we already know about. The Supercharge has an extra point of strength and an extra point of damage, but if you roll an unmodified 1 to hit with the weapon, the bearer is destroyed after shooting. So basically he can have supercharge his plasma pistol at the risk of killing himself. And then for the Assault Intercessors, the number tells you how many can be in the squad. At the moment we've got 1 Sergeant and only 4 Assault Intercessors with this issue, and that's what will be in this game. But they can go up to 9 generic Intercessors for a 10-man squad in total. But the Sergeant has a slightly different profile to the Assault Intercessors, even though he's part of the same unit, so he's a squad leader. In this case the only difference is he has an extra attack in melee, but there can be other differences with unit leaders as well. There's also a thing highlighted in red which is war gear options, and it says that the Sergeant's heavy bolt pistol can be replaced with a plasma pistol, and that's the same as the one that the captain has, so it's got the profile here, just repeated. And then this game features the Necron Scorpec destroyers, and they've had an update to their weapons. First of all, we learn that they have 2 different kinds of weapons. In the left-hand picture is the Hyperphase Reap Blade, the big 2-handed one, and on the right-hand picture is the Threshers that 2 of the models have. The Reap Blade has +2 strength, an AP of -4 and 3 damage, whereas the Threshers are strength user, an AP -3 and only 2 damage, but they do get an additional attack with that weapon, so the ones with the Threshers fight with 4 attacks. And the number in their unit is 3, otherwise they're the same as they were before when we last saw them. And the Scarab Swarms are exactly the same as they were the last time we saw them, but there are 3 Scarab Swarms in a unit, as you can see there. I mentioned a bit more about it at the end, but there's also some extra profiles for the rematch, because as you can play this game a second time with slightly different models. So in this case we've got the Aggressor Squad for the Space Marines. There's no new rules for them here, apart from the fact that they have a Sergeant in their squad as well, who has an extra attack, just like the Assault Intercessors, and their squad is here, and the 2 Aggressors. I think everything else we've seen before, except possibly that their gauntlets do 2 damage in melee. Not sure if we knew that before. And then the Necron Overlord, who is exactly the same as he was previously. Now on the next page there's just a quick rules summary here, including an explanation of the plasma pistol's multiple profiles. And then we have the setup for the game. So you see we've got the large board here. The Scorpic destroyers start on the bottom left and the Scarabs on the top right, with one model on the designated point and then incoherency, and no more than 5 inches from the short board edge. The 5 Assault Intercessors start with a model on point D and then incoherency, but they have to be within 4 inches of the centre of point D. And the Primaris Captain starts at the top centre of the board. And there's also an objective over on the far right on point E. And then we have a game walkthrough. So everything on this page is as we've seen before. There's an example here of some sample attacks, just so you can see visually how some of the new weapons work, like the overcharged plasma pistol. But on the next page there is actually a new rule that isn't highlighted very well, but it is in here in the fight sequence description, which is called consolidation. So once a unit has made all of its attacks, it can make a consolidation move, which works the same way as a pile-in move. That is, they can move up to 3 inches and they have to finish closer to the closest enemy model when they do so, and incoherency. If they're in base contact with something, they can't make a consolidation move. So this is just an example of that happening here, but we will see it coming up in the game. And we're on to the Necron turn, and this is all much as we saw already. The victory conditions are that the Necrons win if a model from the Necron unit is touching the objective by the end of turn 3. Otherwise, the Space Marines win. That sounds like a tall order, but you'll remember that Scarabs can fly and destroyers are also pretty fast, so that's possibly not as hard as it sounds. But then there's also a suggestion for a rematch, which is to use the Aggressors and the Overlord in place of the Assault Intercessors and the Scarab Swarms. So we'll try that out after we've played the first game. But yeah, I think that's everything for the rules for this issue, so we'll set up the board and get into game 1. So here's an overview of the board. We've got the Necrons lined up along their edge. I deployed as far back as I could to try and make the Space Marine charges longer. And Space Marines, or the Assault Intercessors, deployed about as far forward as they can get. But the Space Marines good to go first. So we will be on to Space Marines turn 1. So Space Marines have moved up.
The Captain's moved up at a slight angle so you can get within range of the Destroyer on the end. Then in the shooting phase, I'll do the Captain first. He's going to fire his plasma pistol at the Destroyers. He's not going to supercharge it, because if I roll a 1, he's just going to blow himself up.
Yeah, and there's no save or anything allowed.
So he has a single shot hitting on a 2. He hits, wounds on 3. It does. -3 AP.
So the Destroyer will need 6 to save. No, it doesn't, so the Destroyer takes a wound. I'll put the wound on this one here with the 5 evade threshers.
And then the Assault Intercessors will shoot the Destroyers as well, and the Sergeant isn't going to supercharge as well either. So I'll do the Sergeant's plasma pistol first, hitting on a 3. He hit. Wounds on a 3. He does.
Saves before, needs 6 to save. Oh, I made a 6.
And then we have 4 heavy bolt pistol shots hitting on 3s, getting 3. And wounding on 5s, getting 1.
With AP -1, so a 4+ to save, which I've made.
Then in the charge phase, both of my units are going to charge. I'll do the Captain's first. He's going to charge the Scarabs. Looks like he'll need about a 6 or so. Oh, a 10 is definitely going to be enough. Captain's just going to go straight in like that. Intercessors will charge a 3. That is going to be enough to get them in range. So the Assault Intercessors are going to finish like this. Basically, so these two on the end will have to pile in around so the two at the back can get in, but they should all be able to get in. I'll do them first, so they will pile in. So this guy will pile in like this, so his friend can get in. So they're still ending up closer to the nearest model, which are the 2 Destroyers on the end. So the Assault Intercessors have 16 attacks, so 2 each, +1 for the Sergeant, +1 each for the Chainswords, totaling 16. Hitting on 3s, 14 hits. Wounding on 5s though, because strength 4 versus toughness 5. Now we got 4 wounds.
So 4+ saves, because -1 AP. Failed 1, so take 1 wound on that wounded Destroyer.
Really needed to kill for that wounded one. And then the Captain goes, he has 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, getting 5 hits, wounding on 3s.
Yeah, Scarab toughness 3, and his strength 5 with his sword.
Ugh, so that's 1 wound, so that's just 2 damage straight up.
Yeah, because they don't get a save against that. They have a 6+ save. I'll put the wound on the one that's sitting on the point at the top. And then my Necrons get to fight back. We'll start with the Destroyers first. The Hyperphase Reap Blade, as it's called, it has 3 attacks which hit on 3s. Only 1, but it's strength 7, so it wounds on a 3. Which it does. It's AP -4 and 3 damage, so that's just a dead Intercessor.
Yep. So I'll take away this one here.
Then the 2 with the Hyperphase Threshers have 4 attacks each, because they get an extra attack for their work with these weapons. Hitting on 3s. Getting 7. Wounding on 3s because they are strength 5 with this. So that's 5 wounds with an AP of -3 and 2 damage each.
5, 6+ saves. Well, I made 1, but there's 4 failures, which is enough to wipe out the Intercessors.
Yeah, because they have 2 wounds and 2 damage each. And then my Destroyers can consolidate now. They do have to move towards the closest model when they do so, which is currently the Captain, but they can move 3 inches if they wish. I might as well. So they have moved 3 inches forward, and they've gone sideways across the board, so they are all finishing that move closer to the Captain than they were when they started. But now I get to do my Scarabs. This one isn't within an inch, so it'll just pile in like that. 4 attacks each, so 12, hitting on 4s, but 6s automatically wound. So I've got 3 6s, which and 4 more hits. The normal hits wound on 5s, so it's a strength 3. Oh, 3 wounds, okay. No AP.
And there's 6 wounds on the Captain. He's got a 3+ save. He failed 2.
Yeah, so the Captain's down to 4 wounds remaining. Scarabs mostly can't consolidate because they're in base contact. And then we'll be on to the Necron turn 1. At the start of my turn, both of the wounded models regain a wound, so the Scarab's up to 3 and that Destroyer is up to 2. And then the Scarabs have fallen back. Because they can fly, they can just fly straight over the Captain and get to there. And the Destroyers have moved up, preparing to engage him. I thought about leaving the Scarabs in melee and just let the Captain hack them to bits, but I think the Destroyers are actually a bit tougher, and they can do a bit of damage in return while the Scarabs go for the objective. So that's that, and then we'll be on to the charge phase, where the Destroyers will charge. So their charge roll is a 7, So they'll finish their charge like this, and then in the fight phase I'll pick them first to fight, and then this destroyer will pile in round, so we basically trap the captain in, but everyone's in coherency. Do the hyperphase threshers first. 8 attacks hitting on 3s. Getting 7. Wounding on 3s because he's only toughness 4. I've got 4 at AP minus. Well, he gets his 4+ invulnerable save against these basically.
All 4+ saves. Oh, he failed 3, so that's going to be enough to kill him.
Yeah, so the captain goes down. It's not technically a Necron victory when I kill him, but the Scarabs are not so far away from the objective. In 2 moves, they'll easily be able to get there by the end of turn 3. So it's a Necron victory. So it's a Necron victory in the first game. We won't do a best of 3 for this one because we've got a second game to play. So we will set up that with the different models and be on to the rematch. So we've reset the board and we've replaced the Scarabs with the Overlord and the Assault Intercessors with the 3 Aggressors. The Space Marines get to go first again. So we'll be into Space Marines turn 1.
Yeah, so like the last game, everyone's going to move up. The captain's just going to move directly towards the Overlord, because if I can take a wound off with a plasma pistol, he gets much easier to kill in melee, and the aggressors are just going to move up 5 inches towards the destroyers. In the shooting phase, I'll start with the aggressors. They'll fire their Flamestorm gauntlets at the destroyers. 66 automatic hits, 21 hits. Wounding on 5s, because I think the last time the aggressors faced off against the destroyers, they didn't need to wound, but we'll see how well they do now. 7.
So 7, 3+ saves, that's an AP. Oh wow, I failed 5, so that's a destroyer, and I managed to roll 8 dice, but it feels a bit unfair to re-roll it when I got such a terrible roll. Be sort of cheating the Space Marines a bit, so what I'm going to do is roll a d10, re-rolling 9s and 10s, figure out which one of those didn't count. Number 1, so that one was not in the thing, so yeah, still take 5 wounds. So this destroyer will die, taking 3 wounds, and then we've got 2 more wounds that will be allocated to this one here.
And then the captain's going to fire his plasma pistol at the Overlord. He's not going to supercharge it. I only need to do 1 wound, so I don't see any point in supercharging it. Single shot hitting on a 2. He hit. Wounds on a 3. He didn't wound. I'll charge with the captain first. He needs 10 again. That's definitely enough. That's enough to get him. Might as well put him into base contact. And then the aggressors will charge as well. An 8's definitely going to be enough to get them all in. So they'll finish their charge like that, the 2 regular aggressors and then the sergeant in the middle. And I'll start at the top with the captain. 5 attacks hitting on 2s, getting 5 hits. Wounding on 4s, getting 3.
Sadly the Overlord still doesn't have his invulnerable save, so 6s to save. Yeah, he didn't make any of them, so he dies because he takes 6 damage. So the Overlord is removed and the captain can consolidate if you wish.
Yeah, I'll move him 3 inches towards the destroyers.
Yeah, so that gets into there, moving towards the destroyers. And then the aggressors get to go.
So the aggressors have 10 attacks on the destroyers, 3 each normally, +1 for the sergeant. They hit on 4s because of their -1 to hit from their gauntlets. They'll still get 7 hits though, and then they wound on 3s because they are strength 8 against toughness 5. And we're only getting 4.
Still only have a 6+ save, these do 2 damage flat. I made 1, but I think that's enough. So this one only has 1 wound left, so he takes 1 of the ones and dies, and then this one takes 2 damage hits and also dies. So that game finishes a victory for the Space Marines. We're not going to do a proper best of 3, so we'll call that a victory for the Space Marines in the rematch, but I think we will play that one again just to see if the dice rolls being a bit different can be a slightly different outcome. It'd be interesting to see.
See if the Necrons can get a turn.
Yeah, I think the first game is very difficult for the Space Marines to win, but this one possibly a bit closer, so we'll give it another go. So I guess a tiebreaker for the episode as a whole, see if the Necrons can actually get to roll some dice this time. So on to Space Marines turn 1.
Yeah, well, like last time, we're moving towards the closest Necrons for each unit. And then in the shooting phase, I'll do the captain first. He'll fire his plasma pistol on normal mode against the Necron Lord. A single shot hitting on a 2, it hits. Wounds on a 3, it does this time.
Need a 6 to save. Nope, he takes a damage. Down to 4.
And then we have 66 Flamestorm Gauntlet shots on the destroyers. Not as good as last time. So we have 19 hits, wounding on 5s. 5 this time.
Roll the correct number of dice this time, 3+ saves. Failed 1, so take a wound. So this one will take a wound, go down to 2.
Start the charge phase off with the captain. He's going to try and charge the Overlord. 6. That's enough, just get him into base contact. And then the aggressors will try and charge the destroyers. Anything but extremely low. Yes, 6 is going to be enough. And they finish their charge and I'll pick them to fight first. 10 attacks, hitting on 4s. Getting 7. Then wounding on 3s. Getting 4 again.
4 6+ saves. Oh, made 2 6s. Yeah, that's important because this one dies with 2 damage and then this one only takes 2 damage and goes down to 1.
And this aggressor will just consolidate into that destroyer. Not on the Overlord. 5 attacks hitting on 2s, getting 4 this time. Wounding on 4s, getting 3.
Still enough to kill him if I don't make a 6. Nope, I didn't. I need 2 6s actually.
Yeah, so the Overlord is killed once again.
But at least I have something to fight back with this time. We'll do the destroyer with the Hyperplace Reap Blade first, because the 3 damage will kill aggressors outright. 3 attacks hitting on 3s. Getting 1. Wounds on a 3. Ah, no wound. And then we have the other one with the Threshers. It's 4 attacks on 3s. Getting 1.
Blimey.
Wounds on... that's a wound, yes.
6 plus? No. So an aggressor takes 2 damage. Put it on this one who's actually in contact with the one with the Threshers. Doesn't actually matter, I can put it on whichever one I want, but it seems appropriate to do that one.
But that is the end of Space Marine's turn 1. Necrons actually get a turn 1. Well, the destroyers have to fall back in my turn, because if they don't, they have no chance against the objective, because they don't move fast enough for that. So they get themselves to there. Oh well, the wounded one also regained a wound, but then I can't do anything else. So we're on to Space Marine's turn 2.
Both my units are just going to close in on the destroyers, and then the shooting phase we're going to shoot them. Now I'll do the aggressors first. 66 automatic hits with their Flamestorm gauntlets. 16, 18, 19 again. 19 hits, wounding on 5s. And 8 wounds this time.
So 8, so 3 plus saves. Oh, made all but 1, so that one's down to 1 wound again.
Captain will fire his plasma pistol. Literally no point in supercharging, because the 2 damage won't spill over, it won't give him any more chance to wound or AP, and he might blow himself up. And he hit with it, and he wounds on a 3. He wounded.
Needing a 6 to save. No, so the destroyer is killed.
And in the charge phase, do the captain first, so see if you can get in. A 6 will be enough. Then the aggressors will charge just to see how much movement I can get. I rolled an 8. So we're going to surround the poor destroyer. I'll do the aggressors to fight first. So we have 10 attacks hitting on 4s. Only 4 this time, they're getting a bit tired. And wounding on 3s, getting 2.
Still need to pass both. Oh, at least 1 save? No, I didn't. So 4 damage is enough to kill that destroyer. So yeah, definitely a Space Marine victory in the rematch. But we'll recount all of those games for you now. So those were the games for issue 13 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. How do you think those went?
I think pretty slightly better for me than I would have expected. Especially the first game of the rematch. The aggressors' Flamestorm gauntlets were really good, and the captain had a terrible time in the first game. I'm not too surprised to see Intercessors get completely diced by the destroyers, though, because I think now we're finally seeing how dangerous the destroyers are. Previous games have sold them short. They are an extremely dangerous melee unit, especially to Assault Intercessors.
Yeah, they have a lot of attacks. The 2 damage is deadly to Space Marines, and the big weapon can even cut aggressors in half.
Yeah.
Not if I roll like I did.
And the Assault Intercessors wounding on 5s as well. And you might be able to kill a few with weight of numbers, but you're going to take heavy losses in return. Also, I think the Scarabs, you really need their speed.
Yeah, in the first game I had a decent chance of winning it just because the captain is very unlikely to kill all the Scarabs and then they can just run away. And then the captain then has a choice. He can either chase Scarabs all game or help out against the destroyers who, as we saw, outmatch the Intercessors. Whereas in the second game, the destroyers are the only fast unit. The Overlord's never going to get there because they have 3 turns, and not getting to go first means I'm unlikely to be able to advance very much. Just going to get charged every turn. So
yeah. 3
turns is fine when you have the Scarabs who can fly and move quite fast. It's pretty difficult, even with the destroyers with the 8-inch move. It's actually more than 24 inches from their starting position to the objective, so they have to advance at least once to get there, and if they're being charged every turn, they can't do that.
Basically, as long as the Space Marines can hold the Necrons up for at least 1 turn, they've probably got it in the bag.
Well, that's why you need the Scarabs, because being able to fly means you can't trap them or get in their way. They don't need to advance, they can make it in 3 moves. So even if the Assault Intercessors do really well against the destroyers, you're just going to be chasing the Scarabs across the board, so the captain really needs to do quite a lot of damage on his first charge, I suppose.
Yeah. Probably could have taken a risk to overcharge at least the Sergeant's plasma pistol to try and kill a destroyer with shooting. That probably would have evened the odds a bit.
In the example playthrough, I think the captain overcharges his plasma pistol and does 2 damage to a Scarab, so then he comes in and destroys 2 bases, so there's only 1 left.
Yeah, I think he can get rid of them eventually.
And their damage output is not very high, really, against him.
I think with the Sergeant, it is probably worth overcharging, because it's probably going to end up doing more damage than his actual melee attacks. It doesn't matter too much if he dies. But with the Captain, don't think you're ever really going to overcharge the plasma pistol unless you absolutely need to kill an enemy model in sort of the final turn of the game, and it doesn't matter if the Captain dies in the process. Most of the time, I don't think you're ever going to overcharge it. And against units with toughness 5, you only get the benefit of multiple damage as well. You still wound on 3s.
You've got to make a judgment call, really. You make the decision based on the tactical situation at the time. It's not like he takes a wound or something, he just outright dies, so that's your expensive captain model, just killing himself.
He's already fairly good in melee, but he even has extra bonuses that are actually useful as well.
And one of those extra bonuses is letting nearby units, not himself, reroll ones to hit.
Yeah, so it's actually safer to overcharge the Sergeant's Plasma Pistol because he has a chance of avoiding it.
Yeah, it's unmodified, but that takes into account rerolls, so if you roll 1, you can then reroll it.
Yeah, basically makes it a 1 in 36 chance he'll blow up. And we also learned about consolidation, which is actually quite an important rule. Fitting an extra 3-inch pile in can be quite handy. There's the potential for you to end up engaging extra units. Obviously, you don't get to fight them since that unit has already fought, but it does tie them up into melee. You can get extra models in, or move your models out of range of theirs, that sort of thing. Potentially, you can overrun into other units as well.
Obviously, there's a risk if you consolidate into somebody who hasn't fought yet, then they do get to attack you back, so you might want to avoid powerful melee units. But
even if that unit wasn't engaged at the start of the fight phase as well, you can actually bring more units into combat.
But if you want to tie up like a tank or something that's standing next to something you've charged, it can be quite handy. And we saw a couple of different uses of it in this game. One of them was to move models in. If they've been next to a model that was killed, they can then move in the consolidated step.
And it can get you free movement towards objectives as well.
Yeah, and we saw the destroyers, even though they killed all the Assault Intercessors, they still can consolidate. And the captain as well, actually, he was able to move towards the destroyers. So, yeah, it has a lot of utility. It also stops, in the previous game, I think I was able to do a couple of shenanigans by killing Necron warriors so that they were no longer engaged in melee, but consolidate kind of fixes that, because it lets you move after you've attacked, so you can still tie down enemies, basically, without letting them escape.
Well, I'm sure we'll see more of that in future games.
Oh, and otherwise, I guess, we learn about the sergeant as a squad leader. At the moment, all it really gives him is an extra attack and a choice of war gear.
Sergeants, usually have war gear options, so you can give them other melee weapons in the full kit. These Assault Intercessors are from the starter set, so they don't have all the war gear options they would have.
And squad leaders usually have a higher leadership, which we don't know about yet, but we will do. Basically, it makes their units less likely to run away. And usually you get a squad leader for free. You don't have to, they just come with the squad. As we saw, the squad of Assault Intercessors is a sergeant and 4 to 9 Assault Intercessors, so you always get one.
Usually you'll be the last member of the unit to die, essentially.
Yeah, because he's equivalent but better, really. Anyway, that's all for this video, so if you enjoyed this content, then please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. We believe that the website for subscriptions for North American subscribers is now live, so if you're from North America and you're enjoying this, then you know what you're looking forward to, and we'll keep going with these so you can follow along. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.